Annie Stevenson. Can't say. It doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, well, he found his way to Ross Revenge back in the 80s, although he'd retired then. He's no longer around now, but he came and visited and did some work on the ship for us as well. So,
it'll be interesting because he had experience at it. He'd been deep sea fisherman.
Oh, yes, he had. Yeah, all his life. Yeah. He'd been an engineer, so, he knew his way around a ship. So Jim...
At the bottom of it.
Yes, at the bottom of it, yeah. That stays down where it doesn't move about as much, eh?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. They said oil and water didn't mix, the engineers weren't too popular on the deck.
No, I guess they stayed in their own castle.
That's right, exactly.
So, Jim, what do you remember of Ross Revenge?
Well, very, very little actually, Ray. I think I told you. She came just after just before I left Grimsby. She was delivered by John Ross, who was the managing director at that particular time. He went up to Iceland and negotiated the deal, apparently, and brought the ship down. But as I say, no personal experience, no. But I knew the skipper of her. But I thought you might have been able to contact them, actually. A chap called John Meadows was the regular skipper, as far as I can remember.
Well, we're trying to get in touch with him, but I have got a call with Ray Evans a little later, and I think they were related, weren't they?
They were related. The Evans was a very big family in Grimsby. They had about half a dozen. The sons of the old Alf Evans went on to become skippers, and there was quite a hierarchy. Johnny Wendell is one, married to one of the female Evans, and the other one, as you say, Ray Evans, is another one that married, into the Evans family.
Right. Well, we might be able to find Johnny Meadows that way. That'd be good. What sort of a guy was? What sort of a guy was John Ross?
John Ross. But actually, I first met him when he'd done he didn't have any experience of fishing, but his father formed the company. John Carl Ross formed the company. But when I originally met John Carl Ross, he was a big sarong, and he'd formed this company. But he bought. I was in a company called GF Slight, and they were all coal-burning ships in those days, which was in the early 50s. Well, then we were bought out. We didn't realise this smaller company bought us out with Carl Ross, and I went round to meet him, and he said, "Well, don't worry." He said, "We'll soon have you in better ships than this." And that we didn't know at the time. This fleet of ships was on order, which was a cat boat. We probably saw that original, the one at Grimsby, which was the original one,
the Tiger. Yeah.
And there was a fleet of 12 ships coming along, but we didn't realise that. But it was complete luxury for us when we did go in. I actually took two of them on the maiden voyages, the Ross Jaguar and the Ross Zebra. They were known as cat boats, and they were all named after cats, tigers, lions, jaguars. I was in the Jaguar and the Zebra, but how it came to be Zebra, apparently they'd asked children to decide names for them. And one little girl apparently had said Zebra, and they said, although it wasn't a cat, they didn't like to upset it, so they called one of the ships Zebra.
That's a lovely story. I had heard that, so it's lovely to hear it from you, Jim.
Yeah.
What about the class that Ross Revenge was in? How did they get their names?
Now that was another story. You see, there were different classes. There were K-boats, was the ones that next biggest size to ours. K-boats were Khartoum, Kandahar, Kashmir, and those sort of ships. They were just then they became Ross boats. Ross Kandahar, Ross Khartoum, and Ross Kelly. I don't know how you decide, but Ross Kelly, of course, was named after the ship that Mountbatten was in.
I didn't know that. So they were the K-boats, and
then the K-boats.
An even bigger class when Ross Revenge came along.
Even bigger, but she was a one-off, actually, because she was originally an Icelandic boat. She fished in, as you'll know, that original name.
She was Freya, wasn't she, originally?
Freya, that's correct. And she fished Iceland. And they had huge boards. I don't know why they needed them, because at that particular time there was a 3-mile limit in Iceland. We loved working in Iceland because it was only a 3-mile limit. But eventually, after the Cod Wars, of course, we were pushed out to 200 miles, which made it virtually impossible to fish the Icelandic waters.
Well, was the class that Revenge became? I mean, how did she get a name? Do you know? Because she was the Freya, and then when she became a Ross boat, she was suddenly Ross Revenge.
Revenge, where the Revenge came on, I don't know, because there were so many different ideas, there's so many directors, I suppose. Maybe they had some sort of input, but there was different names. Ross Stalker, for instance, was another one, which it's difficult to pin the name down. Though it didn't seem any particular reason for those.
I'd heard that they named some of them after Navy ships as well. Is that right?
Yes, well, that would be the Kelly, you see, and Kashmir, Kandahar, Afghanistan. But Afghanistan wasn't in the news then. But
no, it is now, isn't it?
Since,
yeah. So let's go back to, although you didn't know much about Ross Revenge, but you were aware that she was coming to become a Grimsby ship. Was the whole town talking about her?
Oh yes, she was exceptionally, a big and carrying capacity. Of course, that's what made her so, such a big asset. And she was very successful.
I guess all the skippers wanted to get her, and all the crew wanted to work with that skipper.
Oh yes. But the skipper, there was a limit to what you see. In Grimsby in those days, it was a fishing town, fish town. I mean, no doubt about it. It's virtually nothing now compared to, but everything was geared around the fishing industry, the docks, and everything came alive every day with the number of ships that were landing, and then the fish prices, of course, rocketed as years went on, and Revenge came at that particular time when things were improving, and she was a big carrying ship. But there weren't many of that class. She was really one alone. You see, in that particular time, she was the last sidewinder, as you appreciate. All the bigger ships done in those days became freezer ships. She was the only freshwater fish of that size. The freezers, which were very big ships and big capacity, but they stayed at sea for 3 weeks at a time, and they were the freezers. Some of the skippers that took the freezers weren't used to. They were catching plenty of fish, but they couldn't freeze it. They had to stop fishing to freeze the ship because the fish. And some of the older skippers couldn't stand that. They started fishing too soon, and unfortunately, the catches deteriorated.
Gosh. How long would a ship like Ross Revenge, have been out of port? How long would she go for?
They would usually be about 22 days. 22 days. That was about their limit. For a simple reason, if there were some certain amount of fish, but mostly the fish was kept in ice in those class of ships. And there's a limit to the duration that they can keep the fish in ice.
Mm-hmm. And where would she have fished?
3 week trips were pretty general, but about the state for those classy ships was the maximum, would be about 22 days.
And where would she go in that 22 days? How far away would she get to?
Well, at that particular time, but they could be working Greenland, Bear Island, or if they weren't Iceland, there was limited the ships then, the Bear Island, which is inside the Arctic Circle, as you know, and Greenland, which was all very cold. There weren't very good working conditions for the crew.
And how big a crew would Ross Revenge have had?
I should think about 22 or something like that, 22, 24.
You guys worked hard, didn't you?
Actually, just after, if I can digress a little bit, just after the war, when I was fishing out of Hull, they were the sidewinders, in fresh fishers. And they were 3 week trips. And whilst you were fishing, it would take us 6 days to get to Bear Island, and you're 10 days fishing. during that time you worked 18 hours on deck and 6 below. And there was so much fish about in those days that you were constantly gutting fish to 18 hours you were on deck. And you fill the ships up in those days. They didn't report how much fish they had. You just reported full ship.
Gosh.
How did so much fish? How much? Sorry, Brian.
That's all right. No problem. And you came back then. You were a 3-day millionaire, were you?
That's what they call us. Yes. You see, that was it. They always call them drunk and so and so. But the thing was, when you only had a couple of days in dock, you did the day of landing, and then 2 days after that, and then you were back at sea again. So you know they couldn't handle it. Some of them, because obviously they weren't used to it. Because the only time you had to drink at sea was if they'd take the rum out. If you got a good haul, they'd sing out to the skipper, "Is it worth one, skipper?" And he'd send a bottle of rum down for to shout among the lads. That kept them going, you see.
Happy memories, hey, happy memories.
Yeah,
How did the ships talk to each other, Jim? Because they obviously, if they found good fishing grounds, they didn't want the other shipping lines or the other countries to find out. So was there a code?
No, well, yes. You see, in those days, those class of ships carried an operator, and they used Morse code. And invariably, they had codes between the ships with firm companies. They had their own codes. And if the operators passed it on to others, but they were a very important part of the job of the wireless operators. Most of them were Marconi men.
So they actually worked for Marconi rather than Ross?
But some of them, yes, there were independent ones, but the majority of them were Marconi men.
And what about, I've heard, Jim, in the past that sometimes you had government people out there. Did you ever come across any?
Never. I was thinking, no, I can't say we ever did. And personally, I didn't hear of anything. These rumours, but never substantiated.
Yeah. When was the last time you were fishing, Jim?
Oh, about now then. I'm 98 now, so it's about in my 50s, I think 58 or something like that to finish.
Right. With this Brexit thing, then, if they get their own fishing fleet again, you don't want to go back?
No, thanks. I've had a good innings.
I think you have, Jim.
Actually, those three in Grimsby, Hull was primarily a deep water port. They were both back then, but Grimsby tended to be more varied. They had three classes of vessels in Grimsby. There was the middle water, the near water, which was the North Sea. And then the middle water, which was the Faroes and those areas, and then the deep water, which was anything Iceland and beyond. So, and there was quite a difference between them.
Braver men than me, Jim. You were a braver man than me. Just finally, go back to your conversation with John Ross. When I think you said he told you he'd just bought Ross Revenge. Did he tell you any more about her? What was she like? What sort of ship she was? Why the Icelandic crew guys were selling her? Anything else about her?
No, I'm afraid not really, because it was new then, and they were choosing a skipper then. That was it. He was telling me about that sort of thing. And I think Johnny Meadows was. I'm not 100% sure that he was the original skipper, Johnny Meadows, but it rings a bell and it seems to be associated with it.
Yeah. And I bet a big new ship like this turning up, then, as I say, she would have been the talk of the town, would she?
Oh, exactly. Everything was geared round fishing in those days. I mean, the pubs all around the dock areas, and all that sort of thing. And theatres. We had two theatres, one in Grimsby and one in Cleethorpes. And they were all really booming, all those things, and the public houses and clubs. In fact, outside the town, North Coast, North Sea Lane, and Humberston, there was the nightclubs out there, and that was there again. The class distinctions, shall we say, between them then. Invariably, the class there would be skippers and mates out there. And the deckhands and trimmers and those sort of people, they didn't tend to associate with those areas.
So if you were...
There was a bit of class distinction.
If you were a skipper or engineer then, or chief engineer, you wouldn't mix with the deckies?
No, not when you came ashore. No, they were Trawler Officers Guild was one, and they had a guild, the trawler officers, and the engineers, and the other people, they were part of the Transport and General Workers Guild. So there was just that distinction all the time.
And I suppose if you were a deckie and weren't up to the job, then you weren't hired again next time. You were
certainly not. You were only as good as your last trip. No one was on contract. The skippers from the skippers back to the deckies and cooks. No one was on contract. You were on. You were on classed as casual labourers. Even if you were 20 years in one particular firm, you weren't entitled to a pension or anything else. You signed on every year on the logbook, and that was it. When you signed on the new ship, you signed on the logbook, and that was it. You were just engaged for that particular time. No one had pensions in those days.
And was the money worth it if you had a really good trip, a really good voyage? Were you a rich man?
You were very comfortable living. And you see, the thing is, you were as good as your last trip. Skipper, as you say, you had no contract. So if a skipper had a poor trip, it was out. You were as good. The old saying was, you were as good as your last trip. You were a good trip, and then when you went out to sea again, you were starting from fresh. You were starting again. You had no security in that respect. The only security you had was doing well. That's why. So I think, to a certain extent, some of the ships that were lost would have been fishing in atrocious conditions that they shouldn't have been. But that was it. They had to get fish. If you came in with no fish, you were out. You would say, getting a pair of shoes, a pair of thick soles on your shoes, you'd be walking about a while.
Bit like being a football manager then.
About the same. About as much security.
Yeah, they're a bit better off than the fishermen, I think.
As long as you were doing well, let's face it, most of them they were doing well. You didn't have many changes. When anyone went skipper these days, well, the skipper, even any ships, they were all right. You were all very friendly and all the rest of it. But as I say, if you had a bad run, some people, some chap, if the weather was very bad, in those days, the olden days, we work in Faroe and Iceland. If the weather was too bad, you could go into ports for shelter because you were working probably about 3 miles off, so we could quickly get inside. But as they gradually pushed us out, that became impossible. You had to just sit it out.
Gosh. Jim, it's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you ever so much for your time.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Maybe see you sometime.
Well, yeah, perhaps we'll come. Well, you're welcome. If you can get down here, you can come aboard. We'll pipe you aboard like the Admiral.
Nice thought.
Lovely. Jim, I'll be in touch via David. I think he's got all your contact details, so we'll send you some pictures up.
That's lovely. Thanks very much indeed, Ray.
All right, lovely to speak to you.
And to you.
Thank you ever so much, Jim. You keep well. Keep well. Bye-bye, mate.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.